Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to be here with you all this morning. My name is Kirsten Hunter. I have the deep pleasure of offering our message this morning, and I'm joined this morning with Myra Aaronson, one of our wonderful worship associates. Myra.
Good morning and welcome. It's wonderful to see those of you who are here in person, and welcome even if you are watching via the live stream, or some of you I know will be watching later today. So in the future, welcome to you too. If you have been with us just once before or a few times, or you regularly attend services here, welcome again this morning. And a special welcome to those of you who are here for the first time. My name is Myra Aaronson, and I am one of a team of worship associates who have the honor and the pleasure of working with our interim minister, the Reverend Susan Sahusky Brown, our director of Lifespan Ministries, Kirsten Hunter, who will be in the pulpit today, and the rest of our wonderful staff to bring worship services to you each week. Our congregation has thrived during the pandemic due to their efforts and the multitude of volunteers who continue to give their time, enthusiasm, and energy to keep us going. Creating a service each week is a group effort. Kirsten has brought us these incredibly gigantic elephant ear leaves today for our flowers. The gift of music will be provided by Susan Adams, and South Church Folk will be singing outside between the services, like the House Coffee Hour Band. The time for all ages will be offered today by Jen Del Deo, our RE coordinator. And after the time for all ages, children who are here are welcome to either stay in the sanctuary or go downstairs with Jen for RE programming. There will be, as I said, a social hour outdoors on the portico after the service. If you are watching remotely and live close enough, just pop over and say hello in an outdoor setting and hear some of the folk music. I would like to remind you also, before we begin, that our COVID protocols call for us to hum rather than to sing the hymns. So please just read the words to yourself, and we'll hum the melody and hopefully some harmonies as well. And now we'll hear from Jen with the announcements.
Good morning. Just a few announcements today. First, tomorrow there will be an Altars of Remembrance Vespers service to honor ancestors that we've loved and lost. So you're invited to bring a personal item drawn for your own heritage and tradition to help create an altar of mementos. There will be readings, a dance offering, and a sharing circle tomorrow evening at 6:30 right here in the sanctuary. Also, next weekend is Halloween. It's Halloween next week, 1 week from today. So, for one thing, anybody who would like to can wear a costume to church. We'll have fun things going on. But also, in the evening next Sunday, we're going to have a Halloween social with all kinds of things going on. So, you can bring a carved pumpkin, a pumpkin that's already carved, to enter in our Halloween pumpkin carving contest. So bring your pumpkin either to church next Sunday morning, or you can bring it at 5:30, and we'll have them all outside, and we'll have a contest. We'll also have a social time for our 5th through 8th graders. They'll be carving pumpkins, so they bring a pumpkin that's not carved yet, and they'll have help from our high school kids. And then our high school kids will also be selling warm drinks and baked goods, because there's an incredible Halloween parade that goes right by here. So everybody's welcome to come to that. Parade starts at 7 o'clock way over that way, but it eventually comes by here. So everybody's welcome to come, have fun with each other, have some refreshments, and join us for all that. Finally, if you have not yet already done so, please make your 2022 pledge for our ABC campaign. The ABC stewards are working really hard, and the longer we wait to send those in, it just means they're doing more and more reminders, which I know maybe we all need, but try to get those in as soon as you can. And if you have any questions, just ask one of the ABC stewards. That's all we have.
As Kirsten lights the chalice here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you watching from home to light your own candle. As we focus on the theme of cultivating relationships this month, I offer an excerpt from these words written by Kimberly Ann Tomchek Colson. It is not by chance that you arrived here today. Inside of you, there is a yearning, a calling, a hope for more, a desire for a place of belonging and caring, a people that does not put fences around love, a community that holds its arms open to the possibilities of love, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Welcome home. Welcome to worship. Now, please stand as you are able and join me in reciting our mission statement, which is in your order of service and should be on your screens if you're watching from home. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. Our theme this month is cultivating relationships, and we have talked of our relationships to the land, to our ancestors, to our friends and families. This morning, Kirsten will touch somewhat on our relationships to personal and cultural change. The words for our chalice lighting this morning speak of longing for relationship with others, a yearning for a place of belonging, for connection with community that nourishes your soul and your gifts. And all of that is good and beautiful and needed, especially in these difficult times as the world seems to be going crazy around us. When Brené Brown speaks of our longing for a sense of belonging, she says, because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world, our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. So what about our relationship to ourselves? A friend sent me a note recently that included an image from the Center for Spiritual Learning with these words: be kind to past versions of yourself that didn't know the things you know now. That resonated with me, and more about my parenting than anything else. I can identify so many times when I was so stressed that I had no room for patience, for carefully choosing my words, when my communication could certainly have been received as unsupportive. It all ended up okay, but I hope that if I knew then what I know now, I would have done some things differently. I am disappointed in my former self. I was certainly not my best self as I define it now. I recognize that I was doing the best that I could at that time, given my circumstances, and forgive myself. But I don't forget, because remembering helps me to grow. Joan Didion, in an essay in her book, Slouching Towards Bethlehem, says, quote, I think we are well advised to keep on nodding terms with the people we used to be, whether we find them attractive company or not, unquote. A compassionate relationship with our former selves helps us to remember who we want to be, what we are aiming for when we speak of becoming our best selves. Nowadays, when I say something unkind or I react rather than respond to those closest to me, I sometimes go back and ask for a do-over. I have come to recognize that everything I do now is building the future me. So my relationship to myself now is crucial to how I will feel about myself in the future and how I will be remembered. We get to become the person we aspire to be through the ongoing process of building a healthy relationship with ourselves every day. by paying attention to our inner chatter, noticing where in our bodies we hold tension, the dynamics between what's going on in our bodies and our emotions, evaluating how we spend our time and honoring our own needs, giving ourselves the compassion, patience, respect, nurture, and love that we give to those we care about, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Psychologist Dr. Karen Lawson reminds us that you are the only person who will be with you for your entire life. So what could be more important than cultivating a healthy relationship with yourself? Our opening hummed hymn this morning is number 311, Let It Be a Dance. Please stand as you are able. And while we will be humming rather than singing, there is nothing to prevent you from swaying and dancing in your spot.
It's time for a story. And if anybody would like to come closer to hear this story, you're invited to do that. Come right on up. You can either sit on the floor or on the benches. It's up to you. So, in Unitarian Universalism, we have these things called the sources of our living tradition. And that means that we've figured out that there are some specific ways that we can find our spirituality, that we can find wisdom, and that we can build our faith from these sources of our living tradition. And one of those sources is looking at other religions around the whole world, because people have decided that all religions have a lot of good things to teach us. And while we may not share all the same beliefs as all churches, every church has a lot of wisdom to share with us. And when we recognize that, when we learn from other churches, it helps us to build relationships with all kinds of people. So today, our story is a Hasidic story, which means it comes from a particular branch of Judaism. And this story is called Darkness and Light. And a rabbi, I should tell you so that you'll know in this story, a rabbi is a Jewish spiritual leader or a teacher, kind of like a minister. So, there was a rabbi who was talking to his students, and he asked them, when at dawn, wait, what time of day is dawn, first of all, before we continue? Ben?
It's like the afternoon.
Is it afternoon? I get a little confused between dawn and dusk. So what?
It's
It's okay. It gets tricky. There are so many different names for different parts of the day. Sebastian, do you have an idea when dawn happens? Yeah, kind of morning. So dawn is that time right as night ends and the day is just starting. So when it's a difference between the dark part of the morning and the light part of the morning, but does it just happen like suddenly it's dark and then suddenly it's light? Does it happen right away? No, it's gradual. So dawn is that gradual becoming of day. So this rabbi was talking to his students and he asked them, when at dawn is the time when it turns from darkness to light? How do we know the difference between the darkness and the light? And these students were very smart, and one of them was like, oh, I know the answer. The answer is because I know because I'm up really early with the animals, and I can tell the darkness from the light when I can tell the difference between the goat and the donkey. And the rabbi said, that's a good thought, but that's not the answer. And another student was like, oh, I know, I'm up early too, and I'm a gardener, and I know the difference between darkness and light when I can tell the difference between the fig tree and the date tree. And the rabbi said, no, that's not it either. The students were like, we don't know, tell us, Rabbi, when is the difference between darkness and light? And the rabbi said, when you look into the face of every stranger and you see your brother or your sister, that is when there is light. But until then, there is still darkness. So now I invite my brothers and my sisters and my non-binary siblings to come downstairs for some learning.
Alone, we might only be able to do a little, but together we can do much. Each week at the Offertory, we combine our resources to support South Church, the building, staff, congregants, and the greater community. This month, our collection will be shared with the Granite State Organizing Project, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization representing 40,000 New Hampshire families. The largest grassroots community organization in New Hampshire, GSOP was founded in 2002 by religious congregations, labor union members, and community leaders in southern New Hampshire. They unite to strengthen their voice in decisions on issues that affect them, such as poor housing, failing schools, barriers to citizenship, unjust working conditions, and costly health care that put all of our neighborhoods at risk. In the words of the Reverend Kayla Parker, may we give in love and in hope. You can do this in many ways. You can use our new mobile app, Vanco. You can give via the donate link on our website or by sending a check in the mail to our office at 73 Court Street in Portsmouth, or you can use the collection plate. The offering will now be gratefully received.
As we get ready for a time of prayer and meditation this morning, I invite you to take a deep breath. Settle yourself in your pew or at home. Plant your feet on the floor. Feel the air around you. If you're here in the sanctuary, tune in to the people who are near you. Tune into the sounds you can hear and the silence that surrounds you. Life is busy and full and hard and wonderful and full of beauty and full of pain. I'm holding in my heart the people at our southern border. I'm holding in my heart our politicians who need to find a way to center humanity in how they approach the challenges we are facing on this globe around the messes we've made. I offer us a prayer this morning by way of a poem. The poem is titled, May Perpetual Light Shine. It's written by Patricia Spears Jones. We have encountered storms, perfect in their drench and wreck. Each of us bears an ornament of grief, a ring, a notebook, a ticket-torn scar. It is how humans know their kind. What is known as love, what can become the heart's food, stored away for some future famine. Love remains a jewel in the hand, guarded, shared fragments of earth and air, drift and despair. We ponder what patterns matter other than moons and tides. Musical beats, rumba or waltz or cha-cha-cha. Cosmic waves, like batons furiously twirling, colors proclaiming sparkle of darkness, as those we love begin to delight in the stars embracing. As has slowly become a tradition for us, we have an opportunity to light a candle of joy or concern. If you feel a call to do so, you're invited to come forward now and light a candle. Susan Adams will play us some music. You can also sit and just feel the room. Blessed be. We have to study how to be tender with each other until it becomes a habit, says Audre Lorde. We have to study how to be tender with each other until it becomes a habit. Sometimes I feel a little overwhelmed by this civilization we live in, by what's expected of all of us, by what I expect of myself. I know I'm not alone in feeling this way. There are so many books and workshops and gurus and faith communities speaking to how we might find meaning, groundedness, peace, connection, and deeper purpose in our lives. Social justice movements keep working new visions and strategies for building a better world. Prophets abound. They really do. We have deep wisdom from our ancestors at our fingertips and unprecedented access to the prophetic voices of this time, more than ever before. But it's all so much. It's saturated. And sometimes that makes it feel empty or impossible. And I heard a dear friend the other day confess that she has not been able to read a book for more than a year because it was all so much before a pandemic spread across this globe. It was all so much before the baby was born or a loved one got sick or the car broke down. And darn it, I blame money. Maybe you agree or maybe you don't, and that's fine. But I believe that humanity took a wrong turn when we started to allow money to be the purpose in our lives. Now, let me also be clear, I do not believe money is evil, nor do I think that money is our only wrong turn. What I believe is that money has become too much the point in our lives instead of a tool. And by allowing money to be the point, the purpose, we allow money to make the rules. And when money makes the rules, it mandates our time so that we lose the things that should be the point and the purpose in our lives. So that the more we need it, the more we need money, when we allow money to be at our center, we allow it to define what we value and define who we value. It makes us envious of one another and competitive and secretive and greedy and arrogant and abusive and lonely. And I don't think any of us are responsible for what money has become in this world. I think the seeds of this moment were planted a long time ago before any of us were alive. But I do think all of us are responsible for figuring out how to decenter money. And in order to figure out how to stop centering money, we need one another. In order to change this civilization, we need one another. The system has been set up in a very sly way, so that now we are so busy working to make money, and we are so busy spending money, and we are so busy thinking about money, what the money we're going to need to spend, and the work we're going to need to do, and the steps our children are going to need to take in order to get the job to make the money they're going to need to spend, and on, so that we never have enough time to think about what's actually happening. So that we scratch our heads about how those people could possibly think the way they do, but we never have a real conversation with them. We skip over listening to someone's experiences so we can get to the point where we tell them our ideas about the solution and move on, because we're in such a hurry. We don't meet our neighbors because there's never enough time and we have so much to do. But very few of us feel seen, especially if our experience isn't the normal one. So if you will allow my hypothesis that we would be served by decentering money to reframe our purpose as human beings towards something else, then the logical question would be, well, what should be centered? And how on earth do you do that? I got a message, an email from Kathy Okeisen this past Wednesday. And she began by saying, I know the day after a board meeting can be busy, but, and then she went on to ask a question about the South Church folk group. It was such a little thing for her to say, but I really appreciated it. Working as a staff member for a congregation can be isolating in a strange way. We work with so many people, but very few of those people realize all of the different things we're doing. And a lot of those people are also busy. So when Kathy took that time, that little bit of time to acknowledge, I know the day after a board meeting can be busy, it felt good. I felt seen. This September, our staff team began dedicating about 20 or 30 minutes a week to an ongoing discussion about dismantling white supremacy. Last week, our discussion began with an exploration of the term white privilege. But within a few minutes, we were talking about how important it is for human beings to feel seen, and how easy it is, especially when your identity is the privileged identity, not to realize how different our experiences can be in the world. How easy it is to assume my experience is your experience, and in assuming that, how easy it is to have people feel unseen. We do this all the time. I'm doing this right now because I know the feeling of overwhelm that I'm describing isn't the same for all of us. I know my particular experience of this moment in time is largely affected by my identity as a single mom, as someone working full time, as someone whose family has really had a hard time during COVID. And on, there are countless pieces of my identity that affect how I experience the world. I can't speak to all of our experiences in this room, which I have heard many of us describe as a collection of like-minded people, because even within this room, we represent multitudes of perspectives and experiences. Some of us were very lonely over the past 2 years. Some of us were never alone. For some of us, work stopped abruptly in March of 2020. For others, it accelerated. Still others were retired and weren't thinking about work at all. Some of us made a lot of money over the last 2 years. Some of us are shook by the financial impact of COVID. All of us need to be witnessed. Every human being in this world has a deep need, whether it's met or unmet, to feel seen. The opportunity to share with pride when we accomplish something meaningful in our life, or to be able to grieve when we are hurt, those are essential parts of being a human being. We need a hand to hold when a shooting star streaks across the sky. We need to be able to talk to one another about harm that impacts us, even if that harm happened 50 years ago. It stays with us until it is seen. Bell Hooks writes, "Rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion." And I believe healing would allow us to free ourselves from living lives centered around money. A culture of overconsumption, a world with money at the center, thrives from our isolation from one another. When we fail to witness one another, we cannot cooperate. We remain isolated. What if we replace money as our purpose with witness as our purpose? Poet Ross Gay writes, "I have been spending a lot of time lately thinking about witness, about how witness itself is a kind of poetics or poesis, which means making. By which I mean, I have been wondering about how we make the world in our witnessing of it. Or maybe I have come to understand, to believe, how we witness makes the world." This is why attending to what we love, what we are astonished by, what flummoxes us with beauty, is such crucial work, such rigorous work. Likewise, studying how we care and are cared for, how we tend and are tended to, how we give and are given, is such necessary work. It makes the world. Witnessing how we are loved and how we love makes the world witness and study, I should say. Witness as study, I think I mean. He goes on, truth is, we are mostly too acquainted with the opposite, with the wreckage. It commands our attention, and for good reason. We have to survive it. But even if we need to understand the wreckage to survive it, it needn't be the primary object of our study. The survival need be. The reaching and holding need be. The here, have this, need be. The come in, you can stay here, need be. The let's share it all, need be. The love, need be. He's saying, yes, tragedies happen, life is relentless in what it throws at us. We can't ignore that part of life, but it doesn't have to be the primary object of our study. We need to survive, we need to be held, we need to be generous and abundant and tender and loving with each other. And in that world, money becomes a tool as it should be. In that world, life and care are centered. In that world, we are mighty. And it becomes far less relevant how much money you have, or you have, or you have, because when the wreckage happens, your neighbors show up. We have to study how to be tender with one another until it is habit. We need to practice witness as study. How we are loved and how we love matters. There are two parts of this work. There is the part about you, and there is the part about them. And the study, at least the way I visualize it, is an iterative process, a cycle you repeat. Maybe picture a figure 8. And the movement between the internal and the external is the movement of the study. Internal is you, your heart, your joy, your hurt. The internal work is the study of being witnessed. Maybe it's taking the time to think about what feels unseen in you. What are you holding that is unwitnessed? Maybe it's pushing yourself to trust someone with your struggles or your joys. Maybe it's letting yourself ask for something instead of always thinking it's your job to be giving. External is them. This is the study of witnessing. This is taking a minute when you're interacting with someone to think about who they are, to think about what they might be experiencing, to wonder how you might best see them. I know the day after a board meeting can be busy, but is witness. Telling your 3-year-old, I know you're having a great time playing with those toys, but we're going to have to leave in a few minutes, is witness. There are layers to this study of witness, because justice and equity are a part of this study too. When you practice witness as study, your service to the wider world is not a separate activity from your service to yourself. For example, for myself, I read poetry as a source of spiritual food. It helps me ground myself. It provides a feeling of being witnessed. That poet who somehow wrote down the words that describe exactly, perfectly capture my experience too, is witnessing me without ever having met me. And I intentionally seek poetry from people who do not share all of my identities. Because when I read a poem, maybe by a Black author who is articulating their joy for Black love, I have the opportunity to witness their experience, to recognize the ways our experiences are different, and move a little closer to understanding our differences. When I read Indigenous poetry or poems from older poets or younger poets, poetry written by men or Black trans women or poets from India or Syria or Iowa, I have an opportunity to witness, to learn, to orient myself in relationship to them. And it helps me break down some of my ignorance about other experiences in the world. It builds my muscle for witness, while it also affirms my own humanity, and provides me with a sense of being witnessed because also, always, there are threads of our interconnection. We are, after all living the human experience. All of that can happen from reading a poem. The work doesn't have to be so big that it swallows us. It's all so much. Maybe you're tired too. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe you're overflowing with excitement. Maybe you're hungry. Maybe you are energized. Maybe you are scared. Maybe you are lonely. But you are not alone. And that is something worthy of your time. The survival need be. The reaching and holding need be. The here have this need be. The come in, stay here need be. The let's share it all need be. The love need be. Amen. Let's hum. Our closing hymn is hymn number 318.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Look around you for a minute at one another. For our benediction, this is a list I wrote last week as I prepared for this sermon. It's titled, Some Things That Feel Good at Church Right Now. The senior youth group taking up needle felting with just the most basic instruction and diving in full force, sitting in a circle, chatting and felting 2 weeks in a row. Being able to celebrate the work of our annual budget team with a very goofy Time for All Ages story a few weeks ago and seeing them smile, and then seeing buttons on their information table last week. Listening to Indigenous voices at our pulpit on October 10th. Having hard conversations that are grounded in respect and mutual care, witnessing in those conversations that disappointment and love can be present at the same time. Being seen by someone, seeing someone, keeping things simple, listening, choosing to be vulnerable, trying even when it might not succeed, putting something into words and having someone nod with understanding, hearing someone explain something and having that information completely rearrange assumptions I'd made about that person, letting go of control and seeing that choice shift from something that feels dangerous to something transformative. New growth, giving without telling anyone, surprising someone with an unexpected gesture, showing up and realizing how much that matters. Cultivating relationship feels good. It isn't fancy and it isn't out of reach. It isn't about perfection or grandiosity. It is wholesome, abundant, and energizing. It takes time. It requires continuity. And I'm pretty sure it's the most important work we have to do as human beings. May we help each other in the journey. Blessings to all of you.